comes to the TV show Dead Boy Detectives, I'm going to be completely honest and say I found it to be a fun watch. Firstly, I just really love the characters and how they really dive deep into them and learning all matter of things about them, especially in the very first episode, and we're just seeing this theme of learning so much about them continue as the show progressed. I also really loved the dark and morbid tone this show builds up, and I just think it did a great job with the show, and I enjoyed how they also added in humour to somewhat light and load at times. When it comes to the horror of this show, I think it did an amazing job, even adding jump scares in just for good measure. And then when it comes to the humour itself, it never felt forced. I think it did a very great job, and it does occasionally take you by surprise, which I think is always a great element. When it comes to the effects, I think they were amazing to see, especially when it comes to these abnormal characters that we do come across throughout the show, and whilst they were horrifying to look at, it also definitely fit the story that they were building. When it comes to the plot of the show, I was intrigued. We're seeing these detectives who usually work by themselves, allowing a human to join into their somewhat agency, and she feels lost and has these psychic abilities which can help them. And then we're just seeing them going and solving ghost cases, some of which trigger all three as they somewhat are similar or mirror their lives and personalities. A small thing I enjoyed about this show is how they presented themselves in the Sandman universe, as instead of making it quite a big thing, they treat it like ripping off the band-aid. They do it in the very first episode. It's a very small thing in how they do it, and then they move on and continue with the show as if it's not a big important thing. They don't let it linger or try and make and get other fans of that show to watch this. They show it and move on, and I think that's a great way to establish that. Now, when it comes to themes, I very much enjoyed the romantic aspect of this show, as we see a lot of characters having a lot of romantic feelings for one another, whether it be just a simple infatuation, whether it be a bit more of a lustful thing, or whether it's even darker than you might want to explore. And I just enjoyed seeing these characters going through the emotional ringer with these feelings, and then there's a lot of dark but comedic consequences that come with these feelings, and I think that was a great way to somewhat show it. It was very funny but also intriguing as well. And then my favourite theme they explored is the one of fighting our own demons. We get this through the character of Crystal, who had a very traumatic experience, and because of that she's slowly building her confidence back and learning about herself. And then when this demon finally appears, she's literally fighting her own demons on multiple occasions, and we see her finally defeating this demon, which makes her more powerful, and she becomes confident because of it. Now, when it comes to the finale of this show, I will be honest and say it was very entertaining. We learned stuff about Crystal that even she's appalled by. We then see her and the character Nico having to go and save the Dead Boy Detectives from the antagonist, which is a somewhat success but with sad repercussions. And then this show nicely wraps itself with a high note ending of the Dead Boy Detectives being verified. Now, this show does have its critiques. The first one that pops to mind is the antagonist of the show, that being the witch, who we meet very early on in the series in the first episode. Now, my critique is why they allowed this character to continue on, as what she was doing was very heinous, and I just found it a bit odd they didn't try to have her arrested, or even worse, as she does seem like the type of character who would hold a grudge and doesn't allow or accept defeat too easily. My second critique is about how Monty was able to easily manipulate his way into Edwin and Charles' life, especially Edwin, as it felt like his character was just swiftly moved into their lives shortly after defeating the witch, which I thought the characters would have put two and two together, but alas, they didn't, which I never could understand, as detectives as well. Overall, I really did enjoy this show. I felt that they did a great deep dive into the characters, really exploring them, especially so early on. I loved the story by story basis that this show went by, and that I also enjoyed the subplot that slowly was building itself up until the very finale. And I really enjoyed the dark and morbid tone this show creates, and I think the humour was a nice presence to this show. Now, is this show good? I'd say it's great. really entertaining show. Rating wise, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. When it comes to would I rewatch it, I'm going to be honest and say yes, there's plenty to rewatch. Firstly, I felt like there's quite a lot of details I may have missed that on a second watch would be more easy and obvious to notice, but also there might be a lot of more references to the Sandman universe that on first basis watch I may not notice. Definitely would rewatch this. Now when it comes to recommendations, only 2 shows come to mind. The first being The Sandman, of course, not only because it's set in the same universe, same creators, etc., but also because of its dark and morbid tone and because of the humour that it also has. Whilst I'd say that this show is definitely more on the humour aspect than The Sandman. Next is the TV show Supernatural, which again, not only because of the tone, not only because of the fact that it's also dealing with the same subject matter, ghosts, ghouls, etc., but it also shares a particular cast member who did great in both Supernatural and Dead Boy Detectives, but also because of the characters. The way we see Edwin and Charles bicker at times reminds me of Sam and Dean Winchester when they bicker, but also the way that these characters have that great bond. Obviously they're brothers and these two have been with each other for about 30-40 years, but still that great relationship both share. Those are my recommendations. This has been my review for the TV show Dead Boy Detectives. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, thank you and have a nice day.